What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat, and it is fight week for one of the biggest cards of the year and one of the biggest cards of the summer. We just had UFC 290, and now we got UFC 291 stacked to the core. The prelims are amazing, but I'm here to talk about the main card, and it's topped by the headliner, the rematch between Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. Guaranteed violence. Of course, we got the co-main, Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira. Alex making his 205 debut in the UFC. Stephen Thompson versus Michel Pereira. Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. Oh my gosh, what a card. I'm going to start with the main card opener. Kevin Holland, the Trailblazer, versus Michael Maverick Chiesa. Man, Michael Chiesa is on a bit of a losing skid, I believe, coming off 2 straight losses to Vicente Luque and Sean Brady. And before that, I believe he was undefeated in the welterweight division, beating guys like Carlos Condit, Diego Sanchez, RDA, which is actually an underrated win, and then Neil Magny, which is also a very decent win, but now he's on a bit of a slide and he hasn't fought in a while. And Holland is a very dangerous opponent. Now, style-wise on paper, this matchup should favor Chiesa because Holland, historically speaking, has struggled with really good grapplers, wrestlers. But he's worked a lot on his takedown defense. And what I saw in that Khamzat fight is he was able to get up twice from some of those takedowns. But Chimaev is Chimaev. He is a different animal. He was able to get the quick finish, the quick sub. He's got a different level of strength and control. You're just not going to get away from that guy. But will Chiesa have that same level of grappling dominance to impose on Holland like Chimaev? I don't think so. I got to go with Kevin Holland in this one, man. It's a very dangerous fight for Michael Chiesa. Kevin Holland has the striking advantage. He hits hard. He's long, awkward. He's got good footwork. So on the feet, it's like a no contest, basically. It's all Kevin Holland, but then even on the ground, Kevin Holland isn't bad off his back. He's very good at using his long legs to create space, threaten submissions, use a submission threat to stand back up. So pretty much everywhere this fight goes, Michael Chiesa is going to be in danger on the feet and even on the ground. He's got to watch out for submissions from bottom against Kevin Holland. So I do think how this fight's going to play out is Chiesa, the Maverick, he will get a takedown in the first round. He might win round 1, but I think round 2, it's going to start on the feet. I think Kevin's going to put the hands on Michael Chiesa, and I think one of those shots are going to devastate Chiesa, drop Chiesa, and I'm going to say Kevin Holland's going to catch him in a submission, a Darce choke, as Chiesa tries to wrestle his way to recovery. That's my prediction. I mean, the only way I do see Chiesa winning this fight is by a decision, a boring lamprey decision. But man, in those 3 rounds, with every round starting on the feet, there's always that danger that Holland catches him. And again, Chiesa ain't no Chimaev, and he's not Brunson level good with his wrestling, and he's not Vettori level good either. So I think Holland's got this one. Now moving up the main card, Tony El Cucuy Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Man, Tony Ferguson should be talking about retirement right now. I don't know why he's taking this fight. I don't know why he's still fighting, but of course I'm picking Bobby Green. Tony looked terrible in his last fight against Nate Diaz. Slow, tentative, awkward. He just looked horrible, man, and he's on a 5-6 fight losing streak. The more he's fighting, man, he's trying to catch up to them BJ Penn numbers for maybe the longest losing streak in the UFC, unless Sam Alvey already has that. But Tony's not going to win. Tony's older, slower, and his quirky, awkward style, it used to be effective when he was in his prime, when he had high testosterone, when he had the athleticism to back him up. His not-by-the-book style worked. But now that he's older, slower, weaker, it does not fly by. He's also figured out, and his time is done. And historically speaking, Tony has struggled with really good boxers like Michael Johnson, Even Justin Gaethje and Bobby Green has really good hands. And I think that's going to show in this fight. I think he's going to really struggle with the boxing, the fluidity, the combinations of Bobby Green. And I think Green is going to toy with him. And I don't think Tony really has any power to threaten Bobby on the feet or get his respects. And he has the jiu-jitsu, but he has no like takedown threat, offensive wrestling threat to go with it, even though he does stem from a wrestling background. Even if he tries to get Bobby down, I don't see him getting Bobby Green down. So, yeah, I think Bobby's going to win this fight. I think he's going to box his head off. And I'm going to say Bobby Green wins this fight by TKO with inside 3 rounds. But I'm praying to the MMA gods that somehow El Cucuy can pull the upset for the ages. I really hope he can get back in the win column. But it's not going to happen, man. And then after this loss, I want him to retire. If he wins, I want him to retire because more L's are coming, but we'll see. Now, the feature fight, Stephen WonderBoy Thompson versus Michel Pereira. This is going to be a crazy fight. You got 2 very good strikers in the welterweight division. Michel Pereira is a wild card. He's wild. He's unorthodox. He's tricky. WonderBoy is not wild, but he is unorthodox. And I do think that WonderBoy Thompson actually is the better striker of the 2. I think his footwork is better. His distance management is better. His range is better. I think his pure boxing is better. His kicks are better. He's just overall, well, is he more experienced? No. Michel Pereira has like 41 fights worth of experience, but I'm talking like UFC experience. Stephen Thompson, he's just a top caliber guy. He's been going at it for so long. And I just think that he's better. And I think in just a striking match, I got to favor WonderBoy. I think the way that Pereira is going to win this fight is if he mixes it up and uses wrestling. And he can do that. Like Michel Pereira, I've seen him take guys down. And he's very strong, very athletic. So is he going to lean to that in this fight against WonderBoy? He'd be very smart too, but it just kind of seems to me like he's just going to show up to try and have a fun stand-up war with WonderBoy like Kevin Holland did. And that's just not going to work. And he's going to get pieced up. Unless he catches WonderBoy with something wild, he's not going to win on the feet overall. I think Thompson wins this fight via decision. But I will not be surprised at a Michel Pereira win. It might be better for the division if Michel wins because he's younger. He's on the rebound. And having him in like the top 10 would be pretty nice. It would be pretty sick. But I'm going to say WonderBoy turns back the hot prospect in Michel Pereira. Now, the co-main event. Alex Pereira versus Jan Blachowicz, 2 former champions. Alex, the former middleweight champion. Jan Blachowicz, the former light heavyweight champion. Both guys in a custody battle over Israel Adesanya. I'm just joking. Izzy's my boy. I don't care if it's still 3-1. Izzy slept his ass. But anyway, into the predictions. So, man, it's a tough fight to call because Alex Pereira has not taken any time off from his last fight where he got brutally slept by Israel Adesanya. And I don't like that. I don't like that he's coming back so soon. He should be taking time off to recover because he's going up a weight class against a really dangerous opponent in Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz is big. He's strong. He's got that light heavyweight strength that Pereira has not been up against in MMA yet. And he hits harder than anyone that Alex has ever fought before. And Jan is one of the best strikers in the light heavyweight division. But also on top of that, Jan Blachowicz has more ways to win this fight. Hence why it's so hard to call. Because there's so many different ways this fight could end. Jan Blachowicz is talking about wanting to test his stand-up against Alex, which that's not a good idea, man. Given how decorated of a kickboxer Pereira is and the touch of death he has in that left hook, that's a gamble I wouldn't want to risk if I'm Jan, because he could knock out Pereira with the power he has, but Pereira could also catch him as well. Or Jan could go out there and wrestle and dominate and get a finish on the ground or ride him out to a decision. Or he could wrestle, but then a round could start on the feet and Jan could get slept anyway, there's just so many different ways this fight could go, so many different ways this fight could end. It's just kind of going to come down to, how is Blachowicz going to approach this fight? Is he going to get in the ego battle and try to stand with Pereira? You know what I mean? And it's also going to come down to how good Pereira's defensive wrestling is, and how much will he have been recovered from the Izzy knockout. Will it not matter? I mean, those are questions that are going to have to be answered. But one thing I will say is Alex Pereira, one thing I will say is that he's going up a division, so he's not depleting himself. There won't be a rough weight cut, so maybe his chin will be better despite being knocked out a few months ago. That's very, very, very possible. And I'm looking forward to finding out. You know what I mean? This is such a bad stylistic matchup for Poatan, especially for his first fight in the light heavyweight division. And Jan Blachowicz, man, he is a veteran, and he's one of the harder guys to beat in this division. He's extremely underrated. However, he is up there in age, man. He's like 40 years old. Alex Pereira, he's also getting older too, but 36 years old is not really old for the light heavyweight division. And I do feel like a guy like Alex, because he's so young in MMA, he's going to be making improvements in his game. Whereas Jan, the clock might be ticking in this fight. And for all we know, he could be aged overnight. And I don't know if I can trust Jan. I can say he can go out there and grapple Alex, but will he? What if he strikes with him for too long, and then before you know it, Pereira lands something devastating like that left hook? Like, he might have success early in the striking, but Alex is so good at making reads, and eventually he's going to find something, and he'll catch Jan if Jan doesn't catch him first. So it's really hard to tell, but also they're at altitude, so cardio will definitely play a factor. And even if Jan does wrestle, it's going to require a lot of energy, you know, because Pereira is big and he is strong. So I don't know, man. Jan could also tire himself out wrestling in this fight. A round could start on the feet, and again, Alex can pour it on a tired Jan Blachowicz. So honestly, I'm going to have to go with Alex Pereira in this fight. Even though it is a risky gamble to pick Pereira because of all those factors I mentioned, and Jan is more well-rounded. Alex at Danbury, Connecticut, he's training with Glover Teixeira, who beat Jan. That's got to be a confidence booster. You know what I mean? Working on that defensive grappling, so I think he's going to offer up more resistance than expected. So if Jan wrestles, Alex can still win. If he doesn't wrestle, even better, Alex Pereira will most likely win, because of his kickboxing experience, because of that power in his hand. And Blachowicz does get tagged up a lot in a lot of his fights. Israel Adesanya was able to connect on him pretty good, and I think he landed some nice left hooks. Glover Teixeira landed a big left hook that badly stunned Jan Blachowicz. And I'm just saying, man, if it's Alex Pereira connecting that on you, yeah, you might be looking up at the lights. So yeah, I'm going with Alex. I know that Jan Blachowicz is undefeated against middleweights, you know, beating Luke Rockhold, Jacare, and Adesanya. Could he make that 4-0? I wouldn't be surprised, you know, but there's a first time for everything, and I think Poatan may just be that first middleweight transitioning to 205 that does end up beating Jan Blachowicz, but I very well could be wrong on this one. Jan's proven me wrong a lot of times, so it wouldn't be the first time. But now, moving on to the main event of the evening, the rematch for the BMF title, Justin the Highlight Gaethje versus Dustin the Diamond Poirier 2, 5 years in the making. A fight that's worthy of having the BMF title on the line, because both these guys, they are the true definition of BMF. And this is a rematch that I've been waiting for a long time. We all know how the first fight ended. It was an absolute war that lasted for 4 rounds. Dustin stopped him in the 4th. But Dustin Poirier, he took his fair share of big shots and leg kicks. Like, he was getting battered pretty good until the end. But, you know, Gaethje has improved massively since that fight, hence why I've always wanted to see them run it back. And I think of the two, yeah, both guys have gotten better, but Gaethje, I believe his improvements stand out more, whereas Poirier, he's a similar fighter to who he was in 2018, but he's a little sharper, more refined. He's just sharpened some tools, whereas Gaethje has made some massive changes. He's more patient. His striking defense is better. His footwork is better. His angling is better. His distance management is a lot better. He fights smarter and more disciplined. But with that being said, I feel like even to this day, Dustin Poirier is still a very, very hard fight for Justin Gaethje, and styles make matchups. And I feel like this fight is one of those things, like no matter how many times these two fight, how many times they run it back, Poirier is always going to be hard for a guy like Justin Gaethje to beat. And I'm not trying to say Justin Gaethje cannot win. He definitely can win for sure. And it felt like he was close to it in that first fight. But the problem with Dustin Poirier for Gaethje is you got a guy like Dustin who can hang in there with Gaethje, handle his power. You know, he matches that grit of Justin Gaethje. He's very durable, so you're not just going to get him out of there like that right away. He's a guy who's he's gonna swim with you in deep waters. You know what I mean? Poirier digs deep better than anyone that Justin Gaethje's ever fought. But also, I feel like the boxing difference is kind of a deciding factor as well. I think Dustin Poirier still has better boxing than Justin Gaethje. He strings together combinations a lot better than Justin Gaethje. Justin will still load up with one big shot, whereas Dustin will put together 2, 3, 4-piece combinations. Poirier also rolls with shots a lot better. And the thing is, too, like with Gaethje, if he wants to play it technical, Dustin Poirier, he can fight technical with Justin Gaethje. If Gaethje wants to scrap and fight dirty, Dustin Poirier can also scrap and throw down. You know, he has that in his back pocket. So very difficult fight for Gaethje. However, the thing that does worry me about this fight in terms of a prediction is that they're fighting in Salt Lake City, Utah, in altitude. And Gaethje trains at altitude, Dustin doesn't. So I think it's going to come down to how much Poirier is prepared for the altitude. But then also those leg kicks of Justin Gaethje, man. Like, he destroyed Poirier's legs. And I think, again, in this fight, they're still going to be problematic because you can be as prepared as you want. Those leg kicks are still going to land and still do damage. So those are two things that worries me. But assuming that Poirier is ready for the altitude, I got to roll with Dustin the Diamond Poirier. I think it's still going to be a very, very close fight. Neither man is going to dominate this fight. But I do think stylistically, Dustin Poirier just has the edge. I think he just slightly has his number. I think even with the leg kicks, Dustin Poirier just has this mental block where he's just able to push through the pain and keep going. But he can also still fight smart and effectively while being tough. That's what's different about Dustin Poirier compared to other tough, durable guys that, you know, Justin Gaethje has fought. And Gaethje does still get touched up quite a bit in his fights. You know, his last two wins, Michael Chandler and Rafael Fiziev, they had some early momentum on him in the first round, but then the fight sort of slipped away from them. Gaethje was able to adapt and take over those fights. But the difference between Poirier and those two guys. So Chandler fights to please the crowd. He doesn't really fight the smartest all the time. And Rafael Fiziev, you know, he's young. He's not very experienced. He's still just making his way to the top and all that. Whereas Dustin Poirier, he's got the experience that Fiziev doesn't have. And he's got the fight IQ and discipline that Michael Chandler lacks. So combine those two, I think he can still keep the momentum going on Justin Gaethje. I think he can still control a majority of the exchanges, still win a majority of the exchanges against Justin Gaethje, just as long as he's not affected by the altitude. Then I do think that Poirier should win this fight. Not comfortably, not easily. He will take some shots. He will get hurt. Gaethje will have some moments, but like I said, I think it's just going to come down to the boxing, the combinations of Dustin Poirier, being able to take shots, fire back more combos. I think that's going to edge him stats-wise. And also, Dustin Poirier doesn't swing for the fences like Chandler and Fiziev. Dustin Poirier boxes better than both of them. He throws with better accuracy, better precision behind his punches, is a lot more tighter. He doesn't overextend. He's very good at also pulling out of exchanges and making you miss. Whereas Chandler, Fiziev, they don't got that. So that's why I got to edge the Diamond Dustin Poirier to win this fight. And also, he's going to mix it to the body as well, which Gaethje does not like body shots. That's going to take some wind out of Justin Gaethje. And for as durable as Gaethje is, if anyone is going to be able to finish the highlight, it's Dustin. Because once he has you hurt, he's so good at putting his foot on the gas and not letting you recover. So I can easily see another finish in this fight. But if it goes to a decision, I can also see Dustin Poirier pulling away with a close decision as long as he's not completely gassed out from this fight being at altitude. So I think Dustin Poirier wins this. Close fight. Could be a decision, could be another TKO, but either way, I got to roll with my guy, the Diamond Dustin Poirier, on this one. But hey, if Justin Gaethje does get revenge, I will not be shocked. He could very well beat him. He's got the tools to. He's improved enough to beat him. I just think of the two guys, I just think Dustin's better. And also, of the whole violence triangle between himself, Eddie, Chandler, and Justin, Dustin is undefeated amongst all of them. And I think it's going to stay that way. I think Dustin is going to remain the king of the violence triangle. But, I mean, Justin could change that, but I don't see it. And I think Poirier is going to come out as the new BMF champion. But I can't wait. I can't guarantee I'm going to be right or that Poirier wins, but I can guarantee we're going to see a car crash. It's guaranteed violence. Like, it's don't miss TV, and it's going to be a good one. But that's it for my breakdown and prediction for UFC 291. Let me know your picks in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, and peace out.